Greetings, vinyl community. Welcome back. I want to say it's been a while, but it's been I think it's been a while in relative terms to how often I usually post videos. I haven't been posting weekly videos of late. But you know what? We're back. Good for bad, we're back. Let's start this off right. Cheers, everyone. I want to say thank you. By the way, I hope everyone's doing well. And wherever you are, you're warm, because it's very cold here. We talk about the weather. We talk about hockey in Canada. We talk about how to be polite to people. But I mentioned I hope you're warm because as I film this, it's minus 40, 41 Celsius with the wind chill. It's very cold. Very, very cold. So I have not been out looking for vinyl a lot recently. But that's not here nor there. Just wanted to mention that. Oh, I can't remember what I was going to say now. Oh, yeah. I want to say thank you to everyone who watched my last video. The 12 albums that I thought deserved reissue or first issue on vinyl. The comment section was filled with tremendous suggestions for things that deserve to be on vinyl. In fact, you all could have made a better video than I did, but there you go. So, what I have for you today is I got some kind of out of the ordinary CDs. I don't show CDs very often, but I thought I'd show you these. I got a couple new records I got via the mail, via local record stores, and from that 2 videos ago, from that mega haul, I just grabbed a big chunk and plopped them right here. There's no rhyme or reason to them. But we'll get through them, and we'll eventually get through the whole, I can't remember how much it was, 45 records I found in those 2 separate hauls at thrift stores. But you know what, we'll get through those, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of yip on my part. It's been a while. Cheers. Let's start with this, and I apologize if some of the, I'm pretty sure none of these were shown last video. Because I try to keep some kind of order around here where I file records after I show them to you, but I neglected this time. But you know what? If I showed you this one, I'm going to show you again. This is via a local record store. A good friend of mine, Rich, who owns Free Cloud Records in Edmonton, was able to hook me up with this one. And I was really excited because I've been trying to find this record for a long time. It comes in and out of print. Amazon never has a listing for it, and he had a copy there. It's Lard. Lard, The Last Temptation of Reid. I wore this out on cassette when I was young. What Lard is, look at that cover. How striking that cover is. Maybe it's so nice, maybe that'll be my screen cap and it'll turn everyone off. What Lard is a side project. I think last video I showed you, my last vinyl haul video, I showed you Revolting Cocks. Like Revolting Cocks, this is a Ministry side project. This is when Al Jorgensen from Ministry and Paul Barker were just churning out the great albums. They were really hitting their stride. But this is, if you don't know, Lard is the main components of Ministry and Jello Biafra from Dead Kennedys on vocals. And it was released on Jello Biafra's Alternative Tentacles record label. And I think they've done, they had an EP before this, then they had The Last Temptation of Reid. And then they had a couple of albums after that which were okay. But if you ever want to dip your toes into the insanity of Lard, this is kind of where to start, is The Last Temptation of Reid by Lard. I was very, very excited to get that one. Next one is something I kind of gave up on because if you're familiar with Epitaph Records, they were kind of the punk label back in the 90s, late 80s and 90s. And they had signed Edmonton band, my city, who later relocated to Vancouver, a band called SNFU. And SNFU I've seen more times than any other band in my life because not only were they one of the best live bands ever in my opinion, but they would play regularly here every weekend. So in high school, what we would do on a Friday, me and my friends would all get together during our break, and we'd figure out where, this is obviously pre-internet, and so it was a bit of a, unless one of us saw a gig poster on a lamp pole, we had to kind of figure out where the gig was, the punk gig was that weekend. and it was usually SNFU, and they would draw huge numbers in our city, and then they'd make a lot of money and then go tour. They use that money to go tour elsewhere. I'm not even sure why I told you that. That's a total aside. But anyways, Epitaph Records signed SNFU to a 3-album deal, and at that point they had broken up. And I apologize if you don't know SNFU, but they're one of the greatest bands of my youth, and they still have a lot of fans out there. But Epitaph Records signed them for 3 albums. 2 of them were kind of dodgy, and 1 of them was really good. But 2 of the albums were reissued by some, and I dropped the record here, excuse me. 2 of the records that were on the Epitaph label, I don't think Epitaph Records has any designs to reissue these on vinyl. 2 of the albums, I don't even know what this label's called, Godbox Records from Barcelona, Spain, got the licensing to release the 2 kind of dodgy albums on vinyl. Still worthy to have on vinyl, in my opinion. Even though they're kind of dodgy albums. And the middle one that was really, really good, it was called The One Least Likely to Succeed, or the one, it's something like that. The one least voted. I don't know. I'm brain farting now. But this is the one they decided to reissue the 1st and 3rd albums for whatever reason. Maybe that's all they got the licensing for. But this one is called Something Green and Leafy This Way Comes. The first album that appeared on Epitaph Records, and it's funny that SNFU signed to Epitaph Records. They make this big comeback record because at that time they were previous to that they were kind of really no longer a band anymore, and they turned out this album that was kind of didn't sound like SNFU. But anyways, I know I'm talking a lot about SNFU, but I finally they finally reissued this. I got a copy of it. Very, very stoked to get this. Like I said, one of the favorite bands of my youth. So, very excited. So, Godbox Records in Barcelona, Spain. You have turned out a wonder in this one. A miracle, I guess. So, there you go. Something Green Leafy This Way Comes. And this one, I wanted to pre-order when it was first announced. It comes from the music label Music on Vinyl, which I've talked about a lot because they're essentially my favorite reissue label. I think they churn out the best reissues in my opinion for quality and packaging and etc, etc, etc. But they released this one, and I was going to pre-order it, but it was really expensive for what it was. So it's been in my Amazon cart for a long, long time, probably almost, I don't know, almost a year I want to say. And then I go visit the warehouse clearance section on the Amazon website not that long ago, and this was in there. Someone had returned it for whatever reason, and kept on dropping in price and dropping in price, dropping in price. And instead of $50, I got this for $20. And it's absolutely non-essential, but it's just a nice package. It's Huey Lewis. Yes, Huey Lewis in the News. It's called Collected. Double vinyl, very high quality. It's basically all the hits from Huey Lewis in the News and the really good album tracks. Then it's got some tracks from the pre-Huey Lewis band called Clover. And one song by when they were called American Express, when Huey Lewis signed, when they signed their record label, when they got signed to a record label, finally, Huey Lewis in the News, they were called American Express, and they were kind of urged to change their name. So the American Express song on here is a Huey Lewis in the News track, but it's just when they were called American Express. And I think it did good for them to change their name, because American Express is kind of a lame name. Anyways, Huey Lewis in the News Collected, double vinyl, super high quality, sound quality, if that makes sense, and I'm not rambling. Like I said, just everything you would possibly want by the band, and I like the band. You know, if nothing else, they're one of the best working man rock bands I've ever heard in my life. So Huey Lewis in the News Collected. I mean, if you want a solid Huey Lewis in the News collection, then you can get this on the cheap. I mean, you can't do better than this, in my opinion. And I think that's all the new vinyl I got in the mail. I might forego CDs today, just to kind of ram in some more vinyl. I know you all don't care about CDs. Pretty much got the whole Dead Kennedys catalog and Sleater Kinney catalog on CD. Maybe next video. Anyways, let's just go through this used vinyl. I'm trying to, if I come across something that I've showed you already previously and I've neglected to file it, I'm just going to kind of toss it aside. So if you see me just throwing records everywhere, that's why. Let's start with this one. Digital Underground, Do What You Like. Digital Underground, this is the 12-inch single for their first ever single that they did. This was the one before Humpty Dance. I don't find 80s rap vinyl very often, and when you do, it's kind of very exciting. So I was kind of, who doesn't like the Humpty Dance? It's fun. You play that in a club now, people are dancing. Guarantee it. But anyways, 12-inch single for the Humpty Dance. Humpty Dance. I don't have that one. I wish it was that one. It's Do What You Like. Their first ever single on Tommy Boy Records. Like I said, no rhyme or reason to this, so I didn't front load this, so hang tight. The Karate Kid 2 soundtrack. Just because. I'm an 80s nerd, and I love the Karate Kid, so I just grabbed this one. The only thing of note on here is probably Paul Rogers doing Paul Rogers, A Free and Bad Company, and Queen, and The Firm. He does a version of Rock Around the Clock, and you get Moody Blues doing Rock and Roll Over You. Everything else is kind of more or less forgettable, in my opinion. But you know what? Nice to have on vinyl. Karate Kid 2 soundtrack. I showed you a copy of this not that long. Well, I want to say not that long ago, maybe 8 months ago, and I'm just throwing out a random number to you now. But I found a even better copy of Donald Fagen, The Nightfly. This is one of those albums, I talked about it when I found it the first time, so I don't want to go too far in depth, was the first time I found this, and this, like I said, this is a nicer upgrade. The first time I found this, it was kind of like, well, I'll buy it. It was a thrift store. I'll spend the $2, whatever it was, because it's an album a lot of people talk about. And I put it on, and it's great. It's a great album, and I feel horribly embarrassed for not listening to this album earlier. Donald Fagen of Steely Dan fame. If you've not heard this album, have a listen, because I ignored it for years and years and years, and like I said, I feel quite foolish because I love this album now, The Nightfly by Donald Fagen. Squeeze, the singles. In fact, it was really weird. I saw Jane Weedland from the Go-Go's, the guitar player from the Go-Go's. She tweeted about this album the other day, and I thought it was just quite odd because I had just found it. Squeeze singles. I'm not going to say it's this was released at the time. Like it comes from what year was it released now? It's I want to say 80s, but it doesn't include everything after when it was released, so it's missing a few tracks. But if you want a comprehensive kind of overview of their best singles, earlier singles up into I want to say Black Coffee in Bed. But it's got Cool for Cats, it's got Slap and Tickle, it's got Another Nail in My Heart, Pulling Muscles from the Shell. I mean, top to bottom, it has to go up in that list of best ofs of all time, in my opinion. Squeeze singles, utterly flawless in my opinion. That was a nice find for a couple of, and I didn't have it on vinyl. I know, foolish me. Beach Boys, Dance, Dance, Dance. This was, as I briefly found out, this was released previously as the Beach Boys Today, and they repackaged it and they called it Dance, Dance, Dance. I think they repackaged it in the 70s, I think. But you know what? It's got Good to Be My Baby. It's got Help Me Rhonda. It's got those two. It's got other songs too. But I'm readily looking for songs that everyone might know. But when I find good condition Beach Boys albums, it's always nice. Very rarely do I find Beach Boys albums that are in decent condition. This one's very nice. So Beach Boys, Dance, Dance, Dance. Gonna skip that one. Just cause. The Screaming Blue Messiahs. By the way, if I haven't said this before, and you're joining me mid-video because you got tired of me talking in the beginning, These are all leftover thrift store finds from my last video, my last vinyl finds video. So these were all whatever, you know, whatever prices you pay at thrift stores. Screaming Blue Messiahs, Bikini Red. I'm not sure if this is one of their more successful albums because it has the song I Want to Be a Flintstone, which was a hit here in Canada. At least a video hit. The video was very much in heavy rotation in Canada at the time of release. But, and I haven't heard the whole album in years, so I don't know what to tell you about it. I do know I Want to Be a Flintstone. That song is embedded in my head from when I was young. So I'm going to have to give this, it has a song called Jesus Chrysler Drives a Dodge. I don't remember that song. Anyways, Screaming Blue Messiah, Bikini Red, very nice find. I am generally a Screaming Blue Messiahs fan, although I can't remember that album a whole lot. Tim Buckley. This is one of those ones I don't remember if I talked about before, so if I did, you're going to have to excuse me. This is an original pressing on Straight Records. It's called Blue Afternoon. I want to say 1969, I'm not sure. I believe Straight Records had, did they have Alice Cooper? I know they had the GTOs. And apart from that, I don't know much more about Straight Records. But Blue Afternoon, and to be honest with you, I'm not a huge Tim Buckley fan in so much as I've not really investigated his music a whole lot. But, you know, it was their original pressing on Straight Records, Tim Buckley, Blue Afternoon. So I'm not going to BS you and talk about the album because I have not actually heard that yet. We're in for about 10 more days of this weather, so I'm going to have a lot of time to listen to music. So I will plow through this all. The Loving Spoonful, never really look at their albums at thrift stores. I kind of just bypass them. But this one's a bit interesting. It's a soundtrack to Woody Allen's What's Up, Tiger Lily. One album I've never seen before when trolling for records at thrift stores. It's $2. So I thought it was worth a punt. Like I said, What's Up, Tiger Lily was a very odd movie by Woody Allen, and I won't go into it. You guys can all you guys can do the homework. But it's on Karma Sutra Records, which I generally like a lot of stuff that was on that label. So like I said, it's kind of an odd album. Odd album to an odd film. The Loving Spoonful did the soundtrack to Woody Allen's What's Up, Tiger Lily. I'm going to listen to this again and I'll report back. I don't even know what to say about this album, but the original owner paid $40 US for this one. $40. I did not, because I found this at a thrift store. It's one of those cheesecake albums, as they call sometimes. I don't know. When I go to record fairs, a lot of people have a section called cheesecake, which means kind of naughty albums, or albums with partially naked girls on them, if that makes sense to you. And I'm not sure if this falls in that category, which is why it's so expensive and worth a few bucks. But it's someone called Faye Richmond, and it's called A Little Spice. There's some nudity on there. Let me cover that up. Any kids watching? Because the internet's, you know, not filled with nudity. Anyways, Faye Richmond, A Little Spice. And I think at the time, this is 1957. So I'm guessing for 1957, this was a bit of a naughty album. But someone paid $40 a use for this one. So I thought that was odd. And I thought it was worth picking up because it, you know, if it wasn't to my liking. It's like a light, of the time, light jazzy type album with some vaguely naughty lyrics, I guess, for the time. But you know what? I always thought, well, it's a good investment. I can always flip it if I want to. So I don't know if anyone else knows this kind of stuff. Faye Richmond, A Little Spice. I have to show it to you. I found it. I think I talked about this album last time. Let me get rid of this nonsense. I think I talked about that record. I'm a bad filer lately. I haven't been filing my records properly. The Vapors, Nuclear Days. The Vapors must have sold a shitload of albums in Canada because I find the Vapors albums all the time. I have my own copies, and I thought, you know what? When I do record fairs, I usually have someone, at least one record fair, looking for the Vapors because of their song Turning Japanese, which is on this album. And the Vapors, actually, they get a lot of, at the time, I think still do, a lot of people consider them kind of a hack pseudo-punk band for the time, but they were actually really good. They had a couple albums that I thought they were really, really, really solid. This being one of them, Vapors, Nuclear Days. Yeah, I'm quite shocked when I read on the internet some not very nice words about the Vapors, and I'm not sure why. Maybe if you're from the UK, you can let me know, but that hit, Turning Japanese, still plays on the radio every goddamn day here, so they must have done something right, because they got a song on the radio every day. This is a lot. You know what? As I'm kind of browsing, this is browsing through what I have left to show you. This is a lot of stuff I wouldn't normally show you, because I consider it common. Common finds that, but I have to realize common's relative to where you live in the world. So what's common to me might not be common to you. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to show this to you anyways. The Fix, Reach the Beach. A lot of this stuff I picked up just because it's really good stuff to, some of it's upgrades, some of it I always know people who are looking for a copy, and some of it's good solid filler for my record bins when I sell at record fairs. I have an 80s section that does really, really well. The 80s will never die. They'll be around forever, as I've discovered. And the Fix, I picked that up because people are always looking for the Fix. They were huge in Canada, massive in Canada. I think they were bigger in Canada and the States than their home country of the UK, I believe. But this is the one that has One Thing Leads to Another, Saved by Zero. It had 2 or 3 hits off that one. So the Fix, Reach the Beach. I really do. I really do like the Fix. I'm a big fan of the Fix. The Cars, Door to Door. I've talked about this album before. This one's in the shrink, actually. Really nice upgrade copy. I've talked about this album before in a previous video. I think it was albums that deserve re-examination. So I'm not going to go too far into this album, but this was the last Cars album they made before they broke up. And they got back together again a few years back, and they made a really, really good album called Move. Is it going to move like this? This album didn't do very well. It was in cutout bins and delete bins not long after it was released. It just didn't do well. I'm chalking it up to the horrible first single. What was the first single? You Are the Girl. Very lightweight. But and I talked about this in that other video, so I don't want to go too long. But that song is not typical of the album. It's a very hard rock album. And really, I'm going to say this again, another album that you deserve, if you've not heard this album, to re-listen to this album, The Cars, Door to Door. I think it's actually, I've said this at the time, one of the finer Cars albums. I don't think the Cars did a bad album, to be honest with you. You know what? And then just some regular stuff that, like I said, I would never show you. Asia, first album, Heat of the Moment. Who doesn't love Heat of the Moment? And then the second Asia album called Alpha. What was the big song on this one? Don't Cry. Don't Cry. And then, of course, they have a song called The Heat Goes On. Heat of the Moment, Heat Goes On. I don't even think I need to tell you about Asia. We all know Asia. Anyways, I think Don't Cry was the one off this one that did well. Anyways, Asia. Couple bucks each. Why not? I've talked about Rumors, Fleetwood Mac Rumors in the past, that I have so many copies. If you don't believe me, I'll show you next video. It's something I'm proud of. I probably have 7, 8 copies of this album now. Because I'm always finding new homes for them. But it's one of my favorite albums of all time. Is the Human League Dare. It's one of the perfect 80s albums, in my opinion. Don't know what to say. I can say about this album, but I have a picture disc, the original picture disc. So I got gatefold variants of the time. I have not bought the I have not bought the newer reissue why? Because I got so many really nice copies of the original. But you know what? When I'm in the mood for 80s, the Human League Dare, it scratches that itch. Go-Go's Beauty and the Beat, another one that I have lots of copies of, but everyone's always looking for a copy of the Go-Go's first album. I could go on and on about this album, and I should, but I won't because time's dragging on. But Beauty and the Beat by the Go-Go's, another one of those perfect 80s albums in my opinion. And then look at that, another Go-Go's album, their second album, Vacation. Not as good as the first album. Still worthy to have. Duran Duran, 7 and the Ragged Tagger. Duran Duran, like the 80s, is one of those bands that will never die. They seem to get bigger as time goes on. Even though they release shitty new albums nowadays, in my opinion. in my opinion. I have to preface that. Yeah, their albums, their new albums, really horrible. Herb Alpert, one called Bullish. I've never seen this one before. It's very 80s produced with, you know, 80s synth basses and stuff like that. But it's funky. It's a funky album, which I like, which I'll... don't laugh at Herb Alpert. He's got some good albums. This, I wouldn't say this is good or great, but it was an interesting listen. Herb Alpert, Bullish, one that I've never heard before or seen before. And then you know what? You're going to get a couple by Sting. You're going to get Dream of the Blue Turtles, and you're going to get Nothing Like the Sun. Double album, no less. I love this album, and I still do to this day. This album is a bit long. It suffers the double album fate, where I think he got a little bit adventurous in my opinion, but there's some damn good stuff on this album, don't get me wrong. If this was culled into a single album, it would be on par with this album. After that, I didn't follow Sting. He lost me, in my opinion. In my opinion, he lost me. That makes no sense at all. But you know what? I ain't here to make sense. I'm just here to show you records and blabber on about the weather. Another Herb Alpert. This one, okay. This one, if you're looking to listen to a Herb Alpert album that's not Whipped Cream and Other Delights, which, you know what, people who run record stores tell me that that's got a renewed interest, apparently, that they can't keep that album in stock for some reason. Kids, I'm not sure if it's being ironic or what the deal is, but apparently that album sells very well in used record stores in my parts now by younger folk. Go figure. What's old is new again, I guess. But if you want to dip your toes into Herb Alpert, his later stuff, Rise. Rise is actually a really good, funky album with Herb playing some horn over top of it. I was surprised. I had a audiophile copy of this, which I sold. I'll be honest with you. And I had the regular album too, so that's not here nor there. But it's actually a really good album. I'm sorry, but it is. Crucify Me. It's true. This one is. I was going to make a separate video about this, and I still might. This is a DBX encoded vinyl, and I'm not going to go too much into it because I think I want to make a video about that. So if you make a video about DBX encoded vinyl, I'm staking my claim now that I plan on doing one, because you know everyone's rushing to do those videos right now for DBX encoded vinyl, which we'll talk about in a future video, because you know I got nothing but time on my hands now. Minus 41 as I currently film this. I mean, if any of you lived in minus 41 Celsius, it's with the wind chill. That's what it feels like outside with the wind, if you don't know what wind chill is. But anyways, enough about the weather. We're going to end this video right here. Whatever I got left, show you next video. I'm sure I'll have a lot more to show you. I got a birthday coming up, so I'm going to guess there's going to be some vinyl included on that one. And I still have not spent my Amazon gift card I got for my wife for Christmas. Keep on forgetting to use that. But you know what? We're going to end this here. Thank you once again to everyone who's been watching my videos. I always appreciate it. I know I always end my videos that way, but I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. We're going to sign off right now. So cheers from David Michael, a.k.a. Nazz Nomad. And we will see you next time. Take care, everyone.